and Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Muhammad Faridh Fikri bin Muhammad SAFRI. Nombor menteri adalah 11 DKA 19F1052 dari DKA 4B. Hari ini saya akan membuat satu eksperimen Highway and Traffic Engineering. So, sebelum kita mulakan eksperimen, kita adalah memakai PPE iaitu Personal Protective Equipment, iaitu jaket keselamatan, pelindung muka, safety shoes, hand glove, topi keselamatan dan pelindung mata. Tajuk eksperimen kita hari ini adalah Flakiness Index dan Elongation Index Test. So, introduction untuk Flakiness ni adalah the Flakiness Index Test determines the percentage of flat particles in a seal coat aggregate. An aggregate is considered flaky when its thickness is less than 0.6 times its average dimension. Aggregate that needs to be tested is between 6.3 mm and 63 mm. Sekarang kita akan tengok aparatus dan prosedur yang digunakan. Jom tengok video seterusnya.
Flakiness and Elongation Index Test. Thickness Gauge. BS Test Sieve. Mechanical Sieve Shaker. Tray. And balance. Initially, weight each of the individual sieve size used in the analysis. Secure a representative sample of aggregate. Conduct sieve analysis on approximately 2 kg of aggregate sample, with using the selected BS test sieve sizes. Discard all aggregate retained on the 63.0 mm BS test sieve, and all aggregate passing the 6.30 mm BS test sieve. Weigh each of individual size fractions retained on the sieves, other than 63 mm BS test sieve. And store them in separate trays, with their size marked on the trays. Using the gauge, select the thickness gauge appropriate to the size fraction under test, and gauge each particle separately by hand. Refer to Table 1 of Highway Laboratory Test Manual.
Jadi ini merupakan data yang kita peroleh daripada eksperimen Flakiness yang kita lakukan tadi. Seterusnya, eksperimen kedua yang kita akan lakukan adalah
Elongation Index Test.
The objective of experiment is to determine the elongation index of aggregate sample. The elongation index test requires the following apparatus.
Length gauge. BS test sieve. Mechanical sieve shaker. Tray. And balance. Using the gauge, select the length gauge appropriate to the size fraction under test, and gauge each particle separately by hand. Refer to Table 2 of Highway Laboratory Test Manual.
Jadi, ini adalah data yang diperolehi daripada eksperimen Elongation Index Test.